Welcome back to Legal Roundup, the podcast where we break down the law and deliver real-life insights you can actually use. I'm Tyler Davis, and today we're diving into something that affects almost everyone, whether you're posting a photo on Instagram, sharing a story on Snapchat, or dropping a tweet without a second thought. Social media might seem harmless, but what if I told you it could be the difference between winning or losing a personal injury case? That's right. Your post, your friend's post, and even the things you think are private can come back to haunt you in a courtroom. Today, I'm joined by the brilliant legal minds of Pepper and Odom Law Firm to find out exactly how social media can work for or against you when it comes to personal injury claims. We'll be sharing surprising stories, legal advice, and tips that might just save your case or someone else's. So whether you're a serial poster, a casual scroller, or just someone curious about how far social media's reach really goes, stick around. You won't want to miss this. Thanks for joining me on the show, guys. Today we have Darrell Porter Jr. and Sean Chun. So my first question for y'all is going to be tailored to social media and how often it affects the outcome of a case. We all know how much our lives are dictated by social media nowadays. It's pretty popular. Most people live online nowadays. I try to not, but it's kind of what I do here with you guys. So sharing, liking, posting. But what happens when fun Instagram posts or random tweets end up in a courtroom setting? As far as my first question goes, how often are you guys actually seeing cases where social media posts are playing or affecting the outcome of a case?
Good question. And so, as far as affecting the outcome, I hadn't seen it a lot, and I've been practicing for 6 years now, or going on 6 years. Time has flown. And so, again, as relates to affecting the outcome of a case, I hadn't seen it very often. Maybe just once here in this last year, where I believe it made the difference between getting the policy limits of a case and not getting the policy limits in a case.
And me personally, I can't say that I've seen it yet. I'm still new to this in my first year of practice. But I've heard a bunch of horror stories, in law school, they'll definitely share war stories, professors and guest speakers coming in, and there's definitely times that you do see it affecting your case, and ones I've heard always seem to be in the negative.
You see, that was something that, I was thinking of. I was like, there's got to be at least like one story maybe that you guys have dealt with where somebody maybe posted a gym selfie and they were like, oh, I can't even lift 10 pounds right now. Mm-hmm. And there they are.
I've heard it a bunch in cases of workers' comp about people being out of work due to injuries and stuff. And yeah, there could be a video of them at the gym or just them simply doing yard work or tossing around their grandbaby or anything of the sort that could tend to show that they're not as hurt as they say they are.
Yeah, that's interesting. But social media is fair game in a court setting, right?
Definitely mm-hmm. Fair game. Particularly if your page or whatever is public.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's definitely fair game.
That's what I was thinking. People subpoena phones all the time and records and stuff like that. So I assume social media could be just the same because, with AT&T, for example, they could definitely subpoena whatever you've been doing. For example, if you hit somebody in the rear, we were defending a client that was hit, we could totally subpoena their Facebook messages and their Snapchats. I know Snapchat is kind of funky because you usually take a snap and then it's kind of gone. But
yeah, I think actually you bring up a really several important points. One, we can subpoena anything. We subpoena phone records, text messages all the time to prove whether or not a defendant was actually on their phone at the time of the accident. based off of what we see in the police report. And oftentimes we'll have clients tell us, well, they were on the phone. I saw them on their phone when they hit me, right before they hit me. And so that then is a cue for us. Well, we need to be, issuing subpoenas for phone records to see, in fact, if they were on the phone. In doing so, that can definitely turn the tide on the case drastically. And then the other point I want to make is that if you put it out there on social media, I don't care if you delete it, erase it, delete the app, you can get to it. And so I think people need to be aware. Snapchat, yeah, I can take a picture of you right now and it'll go away in a few seconds, but I took that picture. It's out there somewhere, the big cloud that hangs over all of us when it comes to our social media, our text messages. That stuff is somewhere. It's not gone forever. And I know text messages is a good example. I'm sure some of the texting that we've gotten from defendants, they thought they probably deleted it when they did swipe and hit the word and hit delete, and then maybe went to the recently deleted and deleted it again. But we subpoenaed those records, we got them. And so I think that's something really key for everybody to know. Just because you deleted it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Exactly, because there's always a record of it. With AT&T, T-Mobile, any phone provider,
that's right.
Y'all subpoena the record, and there it is. You
That's
can't
right.
get rid of that trail, no matter what you do.
No.
So let's get into the nitty gritty a little bit and talk about some weird stuff. What is the weirdest or most unexpected post that you've ever seen, maybe used as evidence in an example or in your experience that affected or was used in a personal injury case, and how did that affect things?
Recently had a case where a young lady had her leg crushed, and the insurance company sent me her social media post, and they sent me a picture of her in a cheerleading outfit, smiling, having a great time. Well, I'm not a cheerleading outfit, but with her holding a tennis racket as if she was about to go play a match, or she just finished playing a match.
Pickleball.
Yeah. And so that doesn't sound bizarre on its face, but it's bizarre because the picture that they sent me, she had this accident in 2024. The picture that they sent me was dated back in 2020. And so not really sure, they sent the picture to say, oh, she's fine. She's back playing tennis after having her leg crushed in this accident. She's fine. And my response to them is, you mean she was fine? Because that picture's from 4 years ago. And so, they used a couple other more recent social media posts made by this young lady against her, which, again, it did affect the case. It affected, us really, in my opinion. It made the difference between, I guess, trial and wanting to go and getting it settled. It made the difference between policy limits and not getting policy limits. We fought really hard, because I personally, if somebody posts about if somebody's been involved in a car accident and then they post a picture of them smiling 3 days post-accident, is that a good look? No. But the way I feel and what my job is to show, hey, do you realize that people can post a picture of them smiling and not actually be happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
People walk around smiling all day, every day. They can be the saddest person in the room. And so social media in that instance is not a fair representation of somebody who may actually be in pain. The picture might have been before the accident, then they decide to go and post it. So it's a lot of different factors. that go into play. But to your question, that's been the weirdest is that they used a picture that was 4 years prior to the accident to use it against our client.
Yeah, and to add on to that, they will try to use anything you post. They're going to look through your page and they're going to see everything. I haven't seen anything that seems to have made a significant difference in flipping a case, but I've seen them just use captions as simple as, I went to this event tonight and had a great time. Well, of course, on your Instagram, you're not going to post how you were really feeling if you were disabled and unable to fully enjoy an event like you normally would have. You're not going to post and tell everyone, oh, I had a terrible time because I was hurt and couldn't get up and dance and do all this. You're going to put on a facade that, you're smiling, great. It's social media. You want everyone to think everything's great. And I've seen them try and use that and say, well, they're not struggling with anything emotionally. Look, they said they had a good time at this event last night. Especially when you've got other things showing otherwise, they're going to use just a plain old Instagram caption as their justification.
That was something that brings me up to a kind of a bonus question. It's like, what if you were to deal with an influencer that has to post, and like you said, they're just smiling and they went to an event, but little does everyone know, like on the back end of the camera, they're actually in a wheelchair or they're on crutches or something, and they're trying to keep that image, so to speak. I wonder how hard that would be to argue or protect, I guess, the validity of that.
So I think rule of thumb for us is to advise just don't stay off of social media. Just stay off of it. But I know your question pertains to someone who has to get on social media because that's how they make their living, an influencer. Even in that case, if we came across an influencer, I would still advise them the same, is to stay off of social media, and then maybe we can claim some lost wages.
Take a vacation.
Take a vacation. Well, don't take a vacation, but
they'll take pictures of you
staycation.
enjoying your vacation.
That's right.
To tell you that.
God forbid if you did that, and so just kind of take a step back from it, and we can try to claim that as lost wages but for this accident, you'd be able to work, and because of it, you can't, and so I think that would make a good claim for lost wages.
Now we just need an influencer.
But see, that's why we're the attorneys, because we
right.
think about that stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're an influencer. This is how you make your money. We need you to step back from that, and then what we'll do is part of your case evaluation will include lost wages.
Yeah, that's crazy, because if they don't post for a certain amount of time, they could lose a lot more than just wages. They could lose their followers, they could lose their audience, and not a lot of audiences are stuck on that. They'll get into a situation where they don't post for a while, and then everyone's like, hey, where'd they go? And then it's radio static, and they come back on, they're like, I was in a horrible wreck. And sometimes I've seen it before where they'll come back after like a break, and their audience is just gone, and it just starts to dwindle. And at that point, I feel like it becomes more of a loss of quality of life there, which is probably something else that you could probably tack on, I assume, in a case. But I don't want to stay on that too long, but I know another thing that people assume is that, a lot of people assume or think that they're safe because they can set their account to private. But so let's say you lock your Facebook down or your Instagram, it's all good, right? But obviously, I would assume that even if you lock it down to private, you could still get those phone records. So what should people know about those so-called privacy settings during a case?
I would say that, it can only do so much for you. Like we've talked about, you could subpoena it very easily and obtain anything that's posted, even if you believe it's hidden behind a wall of some sort. So you could just never be too precautious with something like that. Even if you think it's private, it's not 100% private.
And it's like being behind a curtain. You're there's a silhouette of it still there, and if you rip the curtain off, it's right there for everyone to see. So basically, even if you're on private, you might as well still not post anything, because again, if they find any way through a subpoena of your phone record, AT&T knows everything. Every time you got on an app, every time you got on a messenger or Snapchat, whatever, and they can see all of that, which is strange to me. And in a world where everyone shares everything, it has got to be really tough for clients I know for a lot of clients to stay off of it. Yeah. So for someone who's like addicted, do you ever have, I assume with having limited experience with people being like that, have you ever had anyone that just can't help themselves, who just feels the need to post their injury or their recovery process?
Yeah, and that's when we have to have a really, I always call it a come to Jesus talk with them, to tell them, look, you have to get off of social media. You're going to tank your case. You just have to. Now, I know you didn't ask this, but sometimes social media works to our benefit as well, because there may be pictures of property damage or pictures of injuries that we would not otherwise have, but for them posting but for it being posted on social media. And so, for instance, say we represent somebody who was in a really bad car accident, but they were knocked unconscious and they were taken to the hospital, and they're, let's say if they're out of it, or God forbid, or even a coma for days on the end. They don't have the ability to get pictures of that vehicle, or get, to take pictures of their injuries. And let's say you had somebody at the scene that witnessed it happen, and they have pictures or videos of the property damage, or maybe even what happened, or how severely hurt our client was. Well, that adds value to the case. And so, but for them posting that stuff on social media, and us seeing it and getting it, you may not have had it otherwise, because the client's in the hospital and they can't get up. And definitely, even if they could get up, the last thing they're probably thinking about is, oh, I should go take pictures of my vehicle. And so that affords us an opportunity to get those things where we may not have had them otherwise. And so there can be a benefit to it, but but we will err on the side of, as it pertains to our clients, don't post it. Stay off of social media. If you've been involved in an accident, stay off of social media. Contact us, and then you can spill. You can talk to us for days about what happened. You don't have to go to social media and say what happened to you, who did it, and what their response was. And
sorry to cut you off, or if you're into journaling, that's a great way to go ahead and write everything down that you're feeling and all
that's
that.
Right. Yeah, that's really smart. We send out a journal. When we sign up a client, we send them out a journal to fill out every day, to walk through what they're experiencing, whether it's, pain, or them not being able to do some of the day-to-day things that they were doing, or enjoy their, some activities that they once could enjoy. Like, journal that down, write it down. And we've had clients do a really good job of that and come back with a novel, of a journal over, a few months' time, while they were treating and trying to recuperate from the accidents they were involved in.
So, if somebody, that I wonder how you'd handle somebody that is in a situation where they can, because how some people are, and they're gonna want to talk to their friends and their family and update them and keep them in the loop. But let's say they do, and maybe you catch it, or they catch it and think, you know what, and they freak out and they delete it. Well, I know we've kind of covered that a little bit, but in the case that they do that, what happens if they are your client? Does deleting the post make things worse, legally speaking, since the records can be subpoenaed anyways. I mean, I guess the probably an answer to my question would probably be yes. Obviously, it could probably make it worse, right? It would make the outcome, for the client worse, or would it?
I off the top of my head, I wouldn't see how deleting it would make it worse. Mainly just because the damage has been done.
Yeah.
If you delete it, maybe you could limit the initial eyes that see the post. But the damage has kind of already been done at that point.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
It's like once you've already hit post and publish, that's kind of it. So deleting posts isn't like hitting the undo button and you make a mistake and you can go back. It's more like just, red flags all the way around, regardless of what you do. That's what I was thinking. But we keep, talking about how social media can harm a case, but let's flip the script. So we've kind of talked a little bit about how it can help win their case. How else would you say it could help someone win their case? Or have we ever had someone where, or had a situation where a post from the other side turned out to be more of a gold mine? Like, say for instance, we have a client and the defendant, hit them. They're obviously at fault, but we're kind of lacking some pieces of evidence, but they mess up and post something online. And we somehow through the grapevine get a piece of that. Would that help us in the sense of, being able to further prove them at fault?
Yeah, so I hadn't seen anything, I hadn't come across anything personally like that, but I could definitely see where, something like that may happen. So for instance, if a defendant, a defendant obviously injures our client and prior to the accident, maybe they post a picture on social media getting high or drinking. Same date, roughly maybe an hour or so prior to the accident happening. Well, if I get my hands on it, that's just as good as gold. Because, although I can't prove that they were under the influence, I can definitely insinuate that they may have been under the influence based off of this social media post of them drinking or getting high an hour or so prior to the accident happening.
I just love the idea of y'all being able to like scroll on social media and just so happen to catch somebody in the act. Because I feel like that, to me, from my perspective, if you just so happen to find them and you saw them, and it's dated, the timestamp's there for right before the accident, like you said, it's kind of like striking gold a bit.
Yeah.
And it
Definitely can be used as fair game.
Yeah.
I mean, from my angle, I feel like it would just blow up their defense completely, and they really wouldn't be able.
And
to
not
see
even
them.
necessarily their posts. I mean, it could be as simple as, say, accident happens at night and they're tagged at a birthday party with a bunch of drinks around. It doesn't necessarily just have to be their posts either. It could be photos from friends, families of them at an event that you could find.
See, that's what I was wondering too. Is like, what if you went to a live event and the club promoter took a picture of you there, and you got in a car and hit somebody? Even if you didn't drink, or if they did a toxicology on you there, or a field sobriety test of some kind, and you pass, there would still be that evidence.
Yeah, and in an instance like that where they've done field sobriety or toxic, and pulled your blood and checked your BAC, and you were not legally under the influence, that obviously would be more in their favor. But in that instance, if there is a picture that the party promoter put up, I'm sure that any good defense attorney would argue to keep that out for it being irrelevant or prejudicial, and then it becomes up to the judge whether or not to allow that piece of evidence in, which probably more likely than not the judge would not, because it would be pretty prejudicial to have that picture. But they've had, they obviously had a blood alcohol test ran on them, and they determined that they were not legally under the influence. But again, it would be ultimately left up to the judge whether or not that type of evidence would be able to come in, given those set of facts.
That's interesting. How do you see? I'm trying to figure out how do I word this. How do you see personal injury evolving as people keep sharing more of their lives online and using social media every day more and more? Which we know we live in a world where a lot of people pretty much live their life online. Um, how do you see that changing the future of personal injury law as far as it comes to cases?
Well, I think it can make things a whole lot more complicated. There's going to be information that can pop up really quickly that you were unaware about until that post becomes, you get attention to that post. And I think it can complicate a lot of things or muddy the waters, I guess.
My wonder now, since AI has become a big thing, you know, there's people out here that make tons of. I'm assuming you've seen deep fakes. You ever watch deep fake videos? You know, where they'll have like a video created and they'll change the faces of the actors in it to be other actors, as if they were in the movie, and it looks really convincing. Well, now there is AI that can allow you to essentially make it seamless. So in an instance where someone were to provide evidence that was created by AI, how would you handle something like that? And, from a technological standpoint.
That's a good question that I don't have an answer to because we hadn't run into it yet.
And hopefully we won't. I guess the first step is you'd have to be able to identify some way whether the video is AI, whether that requires you getting some type of cyber expert of some sort to be able to authenticate it or not. I think that's what the biggest issue would be with these AI videos, is being able to authenticate them to get them into court and be able to even use them as evidence.
Yeah. You see, that's my thing is, they've gotten so good now that it's scary. Like sometimes you'll see a video that was created by AI or generated that's like, okay, there's some questionability there. But there's some platforms out here that have come out here recently that are really scary close. Like it's something that I wonder if it is going to be something in the future, because there's been, talk about our president-elect or whatever. There's been issues with that where they, somebody made a video and it was fake, where he was doing this or doing that, and they tried to, bring that into his trial and stuff that he's been going through. It's just really strange, which eventually they figured it out and they ruled it out that it was fake. In a world where there's so much of that now, I feel like it is going to possibly be a problem in the future, but luckily there are people like myself that you have on board as an IT support that knows how to detect it and look for it. And I think that's probably going to be the answer going forward for a lot of that stuff. If it's ever a problem. Here in Mississippi, probably not so much.
Don't speak it into existence.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to entice anyone to do it. So please don't try to do it, because attorneys are a lot smarter than you would think, and they have a lot more resources than the next person does with an AI subscription, I would say. Because we have tools that we have now that we can use to detect it. So if that ever is a problem, we can detect it. So which is good. I know it hasn't been a problem yet, but so in 10 years, we'll probably be talking about AI and TikTok videos and virtual reality posts, possibly, becoming evidence in certain cases, I would think, going forward. So before we wrap up, I want to hit our listeners with something a little more practical. If they're ever in a situation where they might have a personal injury claim, what's your single best piece of advice when it comes to social media? I think it's probably going to be obvious. So can you tell the audience what the golden rule is?
Don't post it.
Stay off of it.
Just stay off of it. Don't post it.
So if you're injured, you're in an accident of any kind, your attorney is going to advise you stay off of social media. Don't care if you're, I assume Messenger is probably safe. Just don't send any pictures, make any claims or
Just
anything.
stay off of it.
Probably just
Yeah.
stay off of it in general.
Just stay off of it. Yeah, all of it. Just stay off of it.
So,
And it's not that we would want you to like disable your social media, but if you're one of those people that are just tempted to get on there and say, "Oh, I'm having a great time in Barbados," after I just was involved in a 5-car pileup on I-55, you need to stay off of social media. Like, if you just can't help yourself, you just got to stay off of it. It's the easiest thing to do. It's the safest thing to do, so you don't tank your own case.
well, that's been an eye-opener for me. So, if I'm ever in an accident, I don't think I'm going to post anything. I'm probably just going to stay away from everything. Probably just unplug all of my devices. Probably the best if you have Alexa. Make sure you take the batteries out of your devices, unplug them, take them outside, put them in a trash bag. I don't care what you do.
Yeah, you need to act like you're studying for the bar. At least that's what I did. I got off all my social media, and so yeah, it's just safer to stay off of it.
Well, thanks for sharing y'all's expertise on that.
Absolutely.
Who knew that social media posts would ever be such a big problem for y'all going forward? Is that something that you guys ever thought would be a big issue when you were in school?
Yeah, I did mainly just because the horror stories they tell you about, and not necessarily just social media, but also stories of private investigators going to take pictures of you that you wouldn't post on social media just to try and prove that you're not as hurt as you say you are.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, if your case is big enough, they'll hire a PI to come and follow you around and take pictures and audio of you.
Well, I think I've learned a lot about, being careful posting on social media if you've been hurt in an accident. So if you're out there listening and you're dealing with a personal injury case or you just want more legal tips, don't forget to follow Pepper and Odom and subscribe to Legal Roundup. We've got more great discussions coming your way. That's a wrap for today's episode of Legal Roundup. Huge thanks to the attorneys Sean Chun and Daryl Porter Jr. from Pepper and Odom Law Firm for sharing their insights. It's clear that in today's world, what you post online can have serious offline consequences. If you enjoyed today's discussion or if you learned something that made you rethink your next post, make sure to subscribe to Legal Roundup on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, if you got a legal question or a topic you want us to cover, hit us up on social media and just maybe think twice before you post, all right? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.